Should be recording now. All right, so forgot to start the camera a minute ago. Basically, we just started a new project from our Unity Hub, and we called it AR Rollaball. And here we are with our new project. We're going to start with the basic Rollaball setup, which consists of a flat plane and a sphere to put on it, and then a simple script to make that sphere move based on keyboard presses. So let's make a plane. So new game object, create 3D object plane. Okay, now in the Rollerball tutorial online, they do a limited size plane. Because we're going to put this in an AR setting, and we're not going to know the size of the room, we're just going to make a really big plane so that the ball doesn't fall off. And so, later on we'll look at how we can use plane detection to add vertical planes that intersect where walls are so that the ball stops when it hits a real wall. Right now we're just going to ignore that. So if you drive the ball into a wall, it's going to break the illusion and not look right. But for now, I just wanted to do the simplest method of placing a ball on a plane and having that plane be placed based on the flat plane that it detects through the AR. So for now, let's make the scale of this plane really big, 100 meters, not 1,000, by 100 meters. Actually, you can leave Y here as 1 and the Z being 100 meters. Okay? If you want, you can scroll out and you can see how big that is. Right? Okay, and now we need to make sure that this is on the origin 0, 0, 0. And let's name this ground. So up here where it says plane, change that to ground. Okay. Okay. Somebody want to get the lights, turn on the side lights, but turn off these overheads. Okay. Now we are going to make a sphere. So create 3D object sphere. Yeah, push that. Yeah, there you go. And there's one over there on that wall, that slider. Bring that slider switch up. There we go. That's good. So make a sphere. And you're like, oh my gosh, I lost my sphere because you zoomed out so far and the sphere is so small. All you have to do is hit F for frame selected and it'll zoom in on it.
What's it mean? I always thought it was find.
Oh, yeah, it's frame selected. You can also go to edit frame selected. Okay? And just like before, our sphere is half buried in the ground. We're gonna have to move it on the y-axis. But before we do that, we're gonna scale it because we're gonna ultimately have this sphere not be a meter by a meter by a meter, but instead be 0.2 meters by 0.2 meters by 0.2 meters. And to move it up, we'll put it at 0.1 meters. Okay. We're going to also need that to have a registration position of the right on the ground plane. As you can see right now, the origin for this sphere is in the middle of the sphere. So we're going to create a new empty object, just like we did before with the moon. I'm going to move it above my sphere, and I'm going to rename this, call this ball. And now make sphere a child of ball by dragging it into ball. Now if I click on ball, you can see the registration position for this, or the origin for this is at the bottom of the sphere. Right? Yes. Great. What? Yours doesn't work that way? What do you have your sphere set for a 0.1 Y position? And what do you have on ball? Yeah, that should do it. If it's 0.2 by 0.2 by 0.2 and you have a Y of 0.1 of position. There you go. Okay, cool. You might have had it on rotation or something, yeah. All right, now we're going to create a material. So let's, in our asset folders, let's make some folders here. Folder, let's make a materials folder, materials. And let's go ahead, we're going to be making a script, so let's go ahead and make a scripts folder while we're making folders. Scripts.
How do you get your ground to look blue?
What do you have for the scale on your y-axis? Do you have it 0?
I have 1.
If you, what side, are you on the wrong side of it? If you're looking at it from the bottom, it won't look blue.
No, I have white too.
I have a newer version of, I updated my Unity. That could be it, I guess. Doesn't matter because we go ahead and click on ground and turn off the mesh renderer. We're only going to use this as a mesh collider. We're not even going to render it, so just turn off the mesh renderer. Okay, so yes, scripts. Go ahead and add a prefabs. We already did materials. Create another folder called textures. Okay, now go inside your materials folder and go right click and say create material. And let's just name this blue. Okay. And over here on albedo, on this blue material, change it to be blue. So I click here first and it's still white, but that's because of this guy here. You got to drag him to the other corner, and now it's blue. So if you weren't looking, you rotate this to the blue, and then you rotate the saturation all the way up to blue. If you want to make it a different color, go ahead. You can make it red, you can make it yellow. Just name it something that makes sense for what color you're choosing. I'm choosing blue. And once you got that, then go ahead and drag the blue onto the sphere. And it should apply it to the sphere child object. Yes? Great. All right, now we need a rigid body to actually make this sphere be controlled by gravity. So make sure you have the sphere child object selected in your hierarchy. Click on add component and put in physics rigid body. Or you can start typing it in. Either one is fine. If you go to it, I was saying you click on the physics thing and then type rigid body. If you're just, and click rigid body. If you're typing, you just start typing rigid body. Yeah. Now, yeah, so let's go ahead and just look at how this works. Go ahead and move your sphere up a little bit. And then go ahead and hit the play button, and you should see it fall down and hit, whoops, didn't see much. All right, let's move our camera in. Let's click on main camera, and then hit the F button for frame selected. And because our sphere is so small, let's move the camera way quicker to the way closer to the sphere. You can see the sphere in the preview window. So I'm putting my camera at a Z position of 1, -1 rather. And let's put the Y position of 0.5. This doesn't really matter. This is going to be overridden by the AR camera when we actually put AR stuff in this, and we're actually going to end up deleting this camera. But this is a good way for now to preview this. Preview this stuff. So hit play, and you should see the sphere fall down and hit the invisible ground plane. All right, cool. Go ahead and reset that position of the sphere back to the, not the sphere, Oh, I was clicking on the wrong thing. Make sure that your sphere has a y of 0.1. Was it? Yeah. And next time we grab this, we actually want to grab it from the ball parent object. That's all right. So just make sure that your sphere has a control. There we go. Has a 0.1. The child sphere object has a 0.1 in the y transform, in the y positional transform. Okay. Cool. So that is responding to gravity, as you can see. Cool. Now we are going to create the rollerball script, or a simple version of it, to make this thing move. So go ahead and what are we going to call this? Player controller. Go ahead and click on the sphere, then go down to Add Component and type in Player Controller. And that's not an item that's in the menu, so when there is no item in the menu, it pops up with new script because it figures you must be making a new script. So hit Enter, and it'll say you're making a new script called Player Controller, and you can create an ad. That's another way of making a script. Before we were right-clicking and adding it to our scripts, and then making sure we named it correctly. This is another way of doing it. Make sure that it's actually in your scripts folder, which it isn't. It's just in my base assets. So grab that and put it in your scripts folder. Okay? Anybody have any problems so far? Great. All right. So we have attached to the sphere child object, we have this script called player controller. Can I zoom this in? View, window, zoom. It doesn't work. I was hoping I could zoom this in so that things would be bigger on the screen for you. Oh well, I'll just keep going like this then to show you things. All right, so double click on your script to launch it in Visual Studio. Oh my God. Okay, this I can zoom in. Zoom.
Wait, it was in view last.
View, you're right. Zoom in, Command plus. All right, how's that? Is that okay? That's good. All right, great. So we're just going to use these base collections. We won't need anything else. This should say player controller here. It's inheriting from mono behavior. Okay. And we are going to, first of all, we want to create, whoops. Yeah, no, that's right. Before start, we're going to create a private rigid body object. And you can just call that RB. And make sure you put your semicolon. Okay. And then, let's see. We need to actually load the rigid body component into that rigid body variable here, into this private rigid body. So RB equals get component open close triangular bracket rigid body. I'm gonna sneeze any second. Maybe I won't because I said so. All right. Oh, there's something I forgot. Open close parenthesis. Just because get component is a void function, and so all void functions need open close parentheses. Okay. Next, we are going to get rid of the update. We don't need it. So update is called every frame before the frame is drawn. There's another thing called fixed update. So let's say private, wait, there we go. Private void fixed update. And this is slightly different. It is called every before any physics calculation is created. And since what we're doing here is calculating and applying physics forces, we're not dealing with the frame buffer. We want to use fixed update rather than update because it calls it more often and gives us better, less jittery results, and isn't slowed down by the frame buffer. Okay, so we are going to calculate, we're going to get some inputs from the keyboard, and then we're going to calculate a force vector to apply to the ball, and then we're going to use the add force method to apply that force vector to the ball. So first of all, we need to get our inputs, and we're gonna get two floats. Float, call this first one move horizontal. And if this is unclear to you, I would stress to just do the roll a ball tutorial. He goes into way more depth than I have time to go into today. Okay, equals input dot get axis, and this is a pre-made function that's part of the Unity engine collection, and it basically takes inputs from your keyboard based on what you have mapped in your Unity editor, and in there are named things called horizontal, with make sure you put horizontal in quotes and then semicolon, and see how it didn't bark at me. It didn't give me a red line because it knows what I mean, because that's a built-in function that's inherited from the Unity engine collection. All right, and then the same thing, float, move, guess what?
Vertical.
Yes. Vertical equals, guess what? Input get axis. What do you think goes next? Yeah. Oh, that was a tough one. All right, semicolon. Yeah. All right. So now we've gotten two different floats, and these are controlled. That horizontal and vertical are understood by the keyboard presses of W and S by default. Sorry, W and S are on vertical, and A and D are on horizontal. And now we're going to create a vector and use those floats to make a new vector called movement. So let's create that vector. Vector 3, call this movement, equals new vector 3. And what do you think go in here? Move horizontal. That's the X component of the vector. The Y component would go up and down, and the Z would go forward and backward. We're not using the Y component, so that's going to be 0.0F, float, and move vertical, semicolon. Okay, so now we've created this vector called movement. It's a new vector consisting of those two floats coming from the keyboard. Now we need to actually apply that force, and this will be a function of rigid body called add force. We've loaded rigid body into RB. So anybody want to venture a guess about what this line would start off with? RB dot. Oh, look at that! Look at the menu that popped up. What do you think I'm going to do? Add force. RB dot add force. Open parentheses, And then what do you think would go in there? We created a vector called movement. There. Movement. Okay. So save that. And go back into your Unity session. And go ahead and hit play. And you should be able, by using WASD, you should be able to really slowly move the ball. Right?
Yep.
It works, but it's not very exciting because you really have to pile up on that vector before it actually starts moving in the way you'd want.
Mine's moving quite quickly.
Well, once you get it going, yeah.
Mine's not.
Yours isn't working. Did you start it, unplay, and play again? Did you have any? Do you have any errors in your console? Then you must have made a mistake. If you can click on that error, double click on the error, it'll take you to the line in your code. All right, so first thing we want to do is, you'll probably notice that if you start it moving and you let it go, it still goes, and it goes forever like it was in space. That's something we don't want to have happen. So we want to add drag to this. You can see under the rigid body, there's a field called drag. And that is a value from 0 to 1. I believe if you had a drag of 1, it would instantly stop when you let go of the key. We want it to roll a little bit but stop pretty quickly, so we're going to have a drag of 0.8. .8. Oh, right here under rigid body. You might have spelled horizontal wrong.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Oh, I did.
Okay. So now you have a drag of 0.8. Go ahead and hit play again. And now when you roll the ball and you let go, it rolls a little ways and stops. Yes?
Yep.
Cool. Let's add some joysticks. Okay. We're moving right along. So that's basically roll-a-ball, the basic functionality of roll-a-ball. When you do the roll-a-ball tutorial, they also, in that tutorial, will add sidewalls so that the ball doesn't fall off the plane. This ball can fall off the plane. You'd have to drive it quite a ways because we made the plane 100 meters wide in every direction. So you'd have to drive it quite a ways, probably past where the camera can see it anyway. They also, in the roll-a-ball tutorial, they add like coins, or maybe they're just yellow blocks. I can't remember.
Oh, this thing.
And
Yeah,
they add the
I was gonna say.
yeah, they add the functionality of being able to pick those things up when you roll the ball over them. So, oh my God, like roll-a-ball is a thing. Unity and roll-a-ball are like,
It's part of the core culture.
yeah, it's part of the culture. All right, we're going to add some joysticks, add some joy to our patch. So let's not build these from scratch. Let's just get them from the asset store. So search for assets and put in joystick. And you should see a thing called Joystick Pack. And it's not $10, it's free. Yeah, everybody see that?
The green one?
The green one, that's free,
Yes.
called Joysticks Pack, and it's by Fenerax Studios.
Did you put import in the asset?
Go ahead and click download or import or whatever you have to do.
How'd you get to the store?
Up here in Asset Store, it's this tab right here up at the top.
Oh.
You have Scene, Game, Asset Store.
It says I'm currently offline, but I'm not currently offline.
Do you have Wi-Fi connect?
Yes.
But you can't connect. Maybe you have to log into an account. Maybe. Do you have maybe you have to? I don't know. Like a Unity account or something.
Oh yeah, you have to have your Unity account connected to
To like this specific file.
Well, Unity has to know what your Unity account is for you to be able to download things from the asset store.
I mean, I have a Unity Hub account.
Right.
I feel like it should be fine.
All right, let me get mine saying import, and I'll take a look at yours. So go ahead, and you should see this pop up, and then click, just leave them all checked, and click import. Okay, and it'll do its thing. Let's take a look at what's going on with hers. Yeah, I didn't anticipate this issue.
It's crazy.
Everybody else is able to download this asset? Yes?
Okay, I'll figure it out.
Well, if you don't have the joysticks, you can't.
Well, I can also follow along. How do you tell if you downloaded it? Because I like click import.
It popped up with that screen, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, then you got it. And you'll see here in your assets, it's added joystick pack. Yeah, try relaunching. I finally sneezed. There's something in the air. It's really getting me. Okay. So, let's give Shar a minute. Is it going online? Let you click what?
Like click into the project itself. Okay. Let me restart that too. I'm gonna go ahead and restart my
According to
entire
Google, it
computer.
says it's according to a firewall proxy that's running.
But that shouldn't be because everybody else can do it.
A firewall proxy.
Yeah, it means that your computer doesn't want to connect to the asset store.
Right. So,
because of
but that seems
networking
like something in my preferences that I need to fix, rather than something.
Well, usually a firewall is through the
that doesn't make
network that you're connected to, and everybody else can connect to it. So
Are you
I
guys
don't
on
think
CA Secure or CA Guest?
go to CA Secure.
I was just on CA Secure though.
Are you not on CA Secure?
I mean, I was, and now I'm.
Yeah, I mean either one is probably gonna be fine.
I switched to Guest because I thought that's what it was.
All right, launch.
Sorry. I'm gonna launch it.
Unity Hub.
Sorry.
It's all right. I think we're doing all right in time.
This form said restarting Unity.
Ugh, you can't connect
What
to
is
it.
happening right now? Okay, I'm just gonna restart my whole computer.
All right.
It's cranky. I've been using C4D all day.
All right. While we're waiting for Shar to restart, I can show you guys something cool I found the other day.
Yay.
YouTube, and I believe it's in my history. All my research. There it is. This is kind of cool. This is called Mannequin Madness, which I believe was a game in and of itself, but they created a AR version of it. And you can kind of figure out what's going on here. This is just an infographic explaining you how to get it started. You have to scan a surface, tap on it, size it to a size that's appropriate. You can see this defining the detected plane. And then once you got it sized to something that you like, zoomed to something that you like, you let go. Go ahead and let go. Go ahead and let go.
I like all the brooms.
Yeah, I don't know what the brooms are about. I guess he's just like trying to okay, so there, he finally got it and the goal, I believe, is to not fall in the hole, or maybe you're supposed to fall in the hole to get to the next level. And these things fall down, and then you can have by picking them up, you get weapons, and you can shoot at the other mannequins.
It's a zombie shooter.
Yeah, basically. And basically, I mean, I don't know exactly how this works, but the way I think it works is you do plane detection to place your world. Once you get the world placed, then you use some sort of keyboard joystick or joystick thing on the screen. Probably by instead of being a joystick, you probably click on your object and swipe him where you want him to go, and all the UIs try to follow you, and then it does two different types of raycasting. First, it raycasts to see if it hits another game object like the baddies. And second, it raycasts to see if it hits a plane so that the gun or fire thing, if you shoot it into the ground, it knows where the ground is. So, is yours restarted yet, Shar? What? Your whole project won't load?
No, I mean, I'm just still not able to access the assets.
Can I send Shar my project?
Yeah, try sending her your project. I don't know what your deal is with your asset store.
Restarting Unity.
Well, she restarted her whole project. I mean, her whole computer, so that restarted
I
Unity.
restarted my own Unity, and the Unity Asset Store won't open my project because I think it's still.
Okay.
I'll fix this. Thank you.
All right. Everybody else has joysticks downloaded? Okay. So now we're going to actually go back to your scene. Click on Scene tab over here. Scene. And we need to actually put these joysticks in the game. And we're going to do that by adding a something that goes on top of everything that's rendered. And you use this to kind of create a viewport that stays steady no matter which way the camera is facing. And that's called a canvas. So if you go over here and you right click and you say UI canvas, it'll add canvas and event system automatically. UI canvas. Okay. How's it going, Shar? What do you got?
It's getting a lot of, my computer is like kind of having a small meltdown. Okay, it's fine. We're good.
All right.
It's fine over here.
Okay. It's all fine. We're fine now. How have you been?
Works. We'll see.
Okay. So now we have the canvas. We need to scale the canvas for, so what is it? Screens place, canvas scaler over here. We need to change this from constant pixel size to scale with screen size because everybody's got slightly different resolutions on their phones and different resolutions on their monitors for that matter. And then it wants you to do a reference resolution. This doesn't necessarily, it's not going to necessarily be the resolution that it ends up with. It's just like, what do you want to start off with as a resolution for this canvas? And a good one I like is 1080p. And a lot of our phones are shaped in a 16:9 aspect ratio. So do 1920 by 1080. That's all right. It doesn't matter. It'll stretch to fit. And then it says screen match mode, width or height. That's what we want to keep it on. But it will match based on, right now it's matching only based on width. If I move this over here, it would match only based on height. We want to do a 50-50 split, so we're going to put a 0.5 here. Okay? So that will stretch this canvas in the width and the height to fill the screen, no matter what size your device is. Or even if it's an iPad where it's 4:3, it'll still make it work. Or, and more importantly, when you're holding your phone in this orientation, it works also. It just stretches it to be that 9:16. Okay, so now we've done that. We need to add our joystick to this canvas. So there are some prefabs in the joystick pack. So if you click on joystick pack and you go to prefabs, there's something called dynamic. No, we want fixed joystick. Fixed joystick. Drag that over into canvas. Whoops, I messed it up. I'm going to try it again. Fixed joystick in the canvas. Okay. Now, if you were to hit play, you should see a little joystick on your screen. You can drag this around, and it doesn't do anything yet. It's because we haven't created the script to attach the input from this joystick to the force vector that moves this ball. Okay? We're going to do that, but we're going to have a button as well, so we might as well make that button now as well. So in the canvas, we're going to create a new object called, under UI, called image. And change the name of the image from just image to fixed space joy button. Okay? And this one is set up to be on the canvas on the left-hand bottom corner. And you can see here, like I'm clicked on joystick, and you look at this where rect transform. You see this little icon is showing that it's at bottom left, and then it has a position X of 256 by position Y 256, width 256, height 256. We want to reverse that for this joy button. So the quick way to get started is to click on this anchors, or click on the anchor presets, and choose this one over here, which is the right bottom preset, but the position isn't perfect. And if you hit play, you'll notice it'll put a square in there. Right now it's in the middle. Well, that didn't make sense. Position, I know why. Okay, doesn't matter. In the position here, we want this to be, what was this one again? 256 by 256. We want this position to be negative 256. We created it. So in Canvas, right click, create UI image. Look up on the screen for a sec. You got it? Okay, great. And then name that what it's called, image by default, rename it fixed button. Okay? Now over here on your anchor position, click on this and put it in the right bottom. Okay? And then over here, position X, negative 256. Position Y, 256. Width, 256. Height, 256. Okay. Now I believe if we hit play, we should see, yes. Oh, I'm still zoomed in, that's why. There we go. You should see a joystick over here and a square over here, right? And we just want to update this square with something that looks like a button. Let me get out of play mode. So over here right now, source image sprite, none. If you click on this little target in the corner of it, it'll pull up over here, select sprite, and it will go through all the different sprites that are part of the joystick prefab pack. And they don't have any specific, like they only have joysticks, but there's a sprite as part of their joystick that looks just like a button, and so we can use that. If you scroll down, you can see them down here, outlined. Scroll down till you see the one that looks like a button. I think it's called handle _ ridged. I'll show you in a second. So click that, and now it'll set. So to get those sprites under here, under image, source image, click on the little target in the corner here to set the source image. And now over in the other side, say select sprite, and then scroll down till you see handle underscore ridged. And that looks like a button. Now if I hit play, we have a button over here and a joystick over here. Okay?
Position the button.
Yes, so the button is positioned over here in the rect transform. And you can first start by setting your anchor preset, clicking on this and clicking on bottom right. And then fill in these values, negative 256 on the X, positive 256 on the Y, width 256, height 256. And those values, I basically just mirrored the rect transform for the joystick. Same Y value because you're having it at the same position vertically on the screen, but opposite X value so it puts it on the other side of the screen. Same size. Okay, so you got this button. It doesn't do anything yet. It's just a picture at this point. But we can make it into something if we script it to do that. So we need to create a script for this joy button. So make sure you have joy button highlighted and not like that. I don't want to change its name. There we go. And then hit add component. And we're going to call this joy button. And it should pop up with new script. And it says you want to call this script new joy button. And say yes, create an add. And then it takes a second, and then it creates a script for me. And if you double click on this, it should pop up next to your player controller script. And we want to do some stuff. All right, first thing, we are going to use a subclass of Unity engine called event systems. And the way Unity has worked since they started numbering it by years instead of like Unity 5 is you have to load the subsystem with Unity engine dot and then the subsystem that you're looking for, and it's called event systems because they wanted to keep the scripts a little bit smaller, and so they didn't load all of the subsystems automatically. And so this is the way of loading subsystems. Okay. Now we are going to inherit from more than just mono behavior. Has anybody dealt with, sorry, that's a terrible question. Do you guys understand what inheritance is? Probably not. Okay, so the way you could talk about inheritances in Unity, it's basically inheritances is one of the fundamentals of what's called object-oriented programming, where instead of having to write the same functions over and over and over in different scripts, you can inherit functions from classes that's what these are called, right? No, Unity behavior. Yeah, base classes. Yes, you can inherit functions from classes, and you call those up at the top here. The default one is mono behavior. That has the functions void start, void update, void fixed update, void awake, a bunch of other stuff that you use all the time, and 90% of what you're going to do is mostly in mono behavior. You can write your own and have your own methods and functions in that script, and you can inherit that script in this script, and then you don't have to write those functions over again. It just knows what they are, right? So we're going to do that basically. So this is using mono behavior, comma, and we're going to use another base class called I pointer up handler, comma, and this will be red underlined. Don't worry about it for a second. I pointer down handler. Okay. Now when I click off of these, they're red underlined. And what you need to do is click on this little guy here where it's got like a key and a little red X, and click on implement interface. And that will add this public void on pointer up stuff. And then do the same thing to the down handler. So I click on it once, and where's my little key?
Yeah.
Click on it twice. How do I do it? I did it before. There we go. Now I got it to work. I guess you don't click on it. You just hover over it. And implement interface. And see, as soon as I implement interface, those go away. Are you with me? Shar, how you doing? Oh, did you ever get the joystick in there?
Yeah.
Oh, you did? Great.
Yeah, I got Kathleen very kind of.
Great. Awesome. Okay, so right now these voids only have one thing in them, and that's throw new system not implemented exception. That's definitely not what we want, because that's just going to send you a message saying, hey, this isn't doing anything. So we need to actually put things in these. But just to keep things like normal, let's put these voids down at the bottom, because I like to start with start and end with my void methods / functions. Again, I will constantly use method and function interchangeably. They're basically the same thing. Okay. Yes. Okay. So we need to first create a bool. Don't worry about these not implemented. We'll deal with that in a second. First, we're going to create a public bool. Public bool. You know what a bool is? A boolean. And a boolean is either what? Close. True or false. Or 0 or 1, but yeah, it's true or false. Public. Yeah, it can only be 0 or 1, which means true or false, and we mostly use true and false. Call this pressed. Okay? And I believe we don't even need our start and update. Let's just take them out. It's like, why did we move it to the bottom, Jackson? You're just going to delete what was on top of them. That's why she was laughing. I can tell. All right. And now all we need in this is on pointer down, pressed, whoops, equals true. On pointer up, pressed, equals false. And I'm pretty sure that's all you need. Oh, on this public bool pressed, we need it to be public because we're going to use it in other functions, but we don't need it in the inspector. You don't really need to do this, but it's not a bad thing, and it shows you guys a new method called hide in inspector. And so basically, even though this is a public and normally you'd show it in the inspector, this is not going to show it in this inspector. Okay, save this. Okay, now go back to your player controller script. So now the button will do something, but it's still just like the joystick. It's not connected to the object yet. So we need to update this to use our joystick and button. All right, we're going to add above the private rigid body, we're going to add some protected variables, protected joystick. Did I miss something? Joystick, joystick. Joystick, and call this joystick with the lowercase. Okay? Why aren't these blue? These should be blue. Both of yours are blue? Okay. Mine's just being stupid then. Sometimes when things aren't, and probably if I put garbage here, it wouldn't tell me that it was an error. So my Visual Studio, I always forget the name of it because I want to call it mono behavior, is acting up. And when your mono behavior is acting up, what you can do is just make sure you save and then go ahead and close it and then go back into go back and launch it out of Unity again. So what was that? That was under Sphere Player Controller. And now my joystick is blue, so it's working now, right? So protected joystick, joystick, and I'm using capital J for this joystick and lowercase j for this joystick. Okay, lowercase j for this joystick. All right, protected joy button, joy button. Okay. This shows up because we are calling this joy button and it's a public class, right? There's also in the joystick already in the prefab there is a public class called joystick. It's protected because this is a method of inheritance. When you have something private, it can only be used by that script. When it is public, it can be used by that script, by a child script, or outside of those two things. When something is protected, it can be used only by the parent script or the child script, but not outside. Okay?
So the joy button, is that referencing the,
This is referencing this script.
because so I titled my joy button, but the J is not capitalized.
Well, then make sure you should always have your script start with a capital, first of all, just for naming conventions. But second of all, just you need to make sure that this calls whatever you named yours.
So I have to do this, but then I put this one straight.
So if you change the name of it, then you'd have to make sure that this public class here matches what the name of the script is.
So can I just change the joy button?
If you made it lowercase, try calling lowercase joy button here. But now the problem is that you need to name this joy button something else because it would get confused.
Call it J button.
Just call it JB or J button or something. But I'm going to still call it joy button, so you have to be able to dynamically be able to follow along. All right. Okay. Cool. So now we have those called in our script, so we can actually use them. We're also going to apply, when we click the button, we're going to apply a jump force to the ball. So let's go ahead and create a protected bool called jump. Okay. And right, rigid body RB, yep, that's the same. And we have this, oh, that was something we never got to last time. I was saying, because actually it was because we tried, anyway, I got sidetracked. We were going to create a speed variable and apply that. Because remember how I said, oh, and it doesn't move very fast. And then you argued with me saying, mine's moving fine. And then I got
I'm
sidetracked.
sorry.
That's okay. Let's just go ahead and just go on from here like I put it in before. All right, so we're going to add a public float and call this speed. And let's go ahead and give this an initial variable or an initial value of 5.0f. Okay. And we're also going to need a jump force public float. Call this jump force. And the naming conventions for functions and variables is variables always start with a lowercase. Functions and methods always start with an uppercase. So it's not, they don't enforce that all the time, but it's a good habit to be in. And the Visual Studio will kind of warn you. It'll like make the first character a different shade of blue and say this should be lowercase or this should be capitalized. All right, jump force, and let's give this an initial value of, let's do 5 also. Okay. All right, so we got our rigid body, get component rigid body, and we need to also attach joystick and joy button to the joystick and joy button variables here in the same kind of method that we attach this rigid body to our B. So joystick lowercase equals, and we'll use a find object of type joystick with a capital J, open close parenthesis, semicolon. So now we've attached the joystick component to this joystick variable, and joy button, same deal. Button, did I? Oh yeah, I did. Button equals find object of type joy button with a capital J. Open close semicolon. Okay. Yeah. Okay, now we got our fixed update, and we have our, right now we have been using this horizontal and vertical, which is mapped to the keyboard. Instead of using that, instead of the get access, actually we don't even need these. Let's just, for now, let's just comment these lines out. So whack whack in front of it, whack whack in front of that one. And on this vector 3, actually let's leave this in our code too in case you want to go back to the non-joystick version. Go ahead and copy this, then comment it out, then make a new line below it and paste it back. And now we can edit this one and preserve the ones that we've commented out. Right? So movement equals new vector 3. Instead of move horizontal, we're going to look at joystick.horizontal. And that's lowercase joystick. Joystick dot capital H horizontal. Okay? And 0.0f and lowercase joy button dot, no, not joy button, sorry, joystick dot vertical. Okay. and RB add voice movement. And we can now, instead of just being the movement, we can take this force vector and multiply it by the speed, by this speed public float that we created. Speed. Okay. Now we need to add the code for jumping. So we're going to use an if statement, and we're going to basically look to see whether the jump button has been pressed. If let's see. Okay, so first we're going to say if you're not jumping, not jump, and so and joy button dot pressed, capital P pressed. So if you're not jumping, if you're not already jumping and you press the jump button, then jump equals true. Remember, jump is a bool. So it's either true or false. So basically, if you're not jumping and you press the button, then jump equals true. You're jumping. All right. And we can say, now we can add the force vector for jumping, which is going to be, instead of using this add force, we're going to just add a vertical velocity to the vector. And instead of making a new vector, we can use this stuff called, oh, what is this called? Well, here, I'll type it and then I'll search for what it's called really quick. All right, so rb.velocity and then plus equals, which basically it means take the previous value and add this thing to it. Plus equals vector 3.up and times jump force. So we're going to add the jump force to the vector 3 up direction. And then add that to the velocity that's currently in the rigid body. Okay? And then one more if statement. If jump, if you are jumping, and joy button dot pressed, sorry, this should be and not joy button dot pressed. So if you are jumping and you let go of the joy button, then guess what? What do you think would go here? Hey, right on the nose. Jump equals false. Okay, that should do it. Save. Okay, go back into Unity. Go ahead and hit play. And you should be able to move your ball with the joystick. And you should be able to jump your ball by clicking the button. And if your ball's moving, whoops, and it's rolling still and you jump it, it actually will continue to roll after it jumps. If you keep pressing it while it's in the air, it'll add the voice, it'll add the up velocity to the previous up velocity, and you can make it go higher and higher and higher. Whoa! And if it goes too fast, it goes through the floor. So we could add code to keep that from happening, but let's not, because I don't have it prepared. So basically what happened there is, because the velocity was such that it calculated the ball should be here on this frame, and then should be, based on that acceleration, should be here on this frame. It never hit the dang floor. So,
Your,
what?
go back to the joy button.
Sure.
Is there a reason why we need two icons or down handles?
One's an up handler and one's a down handler. And on pointer up, true. Oh, I have mine backwards. Mine down is true and my up is false. So I need to flip this around. It just made the button work the opposite way, which still works. It's just waiting till it comes up for one and down for the other. So that was because I got my public voids backwards and I didn't notice it in my example, in my notes. There we go. So on pointer up should be pressed equals true. On pointer down, is that wrong? On pointer up, pressed equals true. On pointer down, pressed equals false. That might be wrong though because whatever. Let's save and see what happens actually. Sorry, I'll go right back to it. I just want to make sure that I didn't break it. Yeah, okay, it's fine. It really doesn't matter. One, it's just changing where it actuates, whether it actuates on you pressing the button or whether it actuates on you releasing the button. Either way works. All right, there you go. Up handler and down handler are methods that are part of I pointer handler and I pointer up handler and I pointer down handler, which are methods that are part of the Unity engine subsystems, and it basically detects clicks or touches. I believe up handler is, well, I could probably figure out if I clicked really slowly. Let's see what happens. Okay, so actually the way I had it I think is better because right now it's backwards. Even though my notes were wrong, basically. The way we did it was right. Because right now the way it's working is if I click, it doesn't jump. When I release, it does. So let me put it back the way I had it. Because that is better. So all I have to do is change this to false. And this to true. Shouldn't. What's your velocity? Did you set a velocity in your on your? Is your speed set to 0 or your jump force set to 0? Because if it is, then it won't move. Because then you're multiplying that vector by 0. Okay. So it's 3:23. I think we have just enough time, maybe, to get this. I hope I don't have to do another online video, although that was fun. It just took up my whole Friday night, though. All right, so all right, so we got this. It works, and we're going to now try to throw in some AR into this in 20 minutes. But luckily, most of what we want to do we've done before. So let me zoom in so I can see my thing. All right. Select the sphere and frame select it. F, there we go. Ooh, there we go. Okay, cool. All right, so we want to import the AR tap controller from our Apollo demo. So go File, no, not File. Go ahead and go into your scripts and right-click and say Import New Asset. And now find where you saved your AR or Apollo demo. and should be AR tap controller should be in your scripts, and click on import. And it goes, oh my God, the AR foundation doesn't exist in the namespace. That's because we haven't added these libraries that this depends on, these dependencies. We haven't added them to our project. So we have to go to, what is it? Assets. What is it? It's Window, thank you. Package Manager, thank you. All right, yes, Window Package Manager. Okay, and now search for AR, and we need AR Foundation. Let's double click on that. We need, whoops, why isn't that working? Oh, I click on install, thank you. I'll need AR subsystems. Oh, that came automatically. If you're using Android, you'll need to install AR Core XR plugin. If you're using iOS, you'll need to install AR Kit XR plugin. Window Package Manager, and then type in XR in the search, not XR, AR. AR Foundation, that will automatically install AR subsystems, and then you'll either need AR Kit or AR Core. If you're using an Apple device, all you need is AR Kit. If you're using an Android device, all you need is AR Core. If you're like me and have to deploy to both, then you'd install both of them. Okay, so now that is going, now the only error we have is it's saying, hey, this is calling rotate object, which isn't that doesn't matter. We're going to strip that function out anyway. We're not going to rotate anything. All right, so we need to edit this. Let's go ahead and first of all, let's rename it. So if you click on it twice slowly so that you can rename it, changed its name from AR Tap Controller, and rename it to AR Place Object. Okay. Now go ahead and open this, and the first thing you'll have to do is you'll notice that this AR, the public class still says AR Tap Controller. You'll need to rename that to exactly the same way you just renamed it. AR Place Object, or it won't work right. Okay? So once you've done that, then this should work, but we need to do a few things and get rid of a few things. And this was the part that I didn't quite get to in my notes. So I'm just going to have to quickly look at this and compare. All right, so the first thing I need that we don't have is a few more game objects. No, just one more game object called ground object. So public game object, and call this one ground object. Okay. Whoops. There we go. And then AR Raycast Manager pose bool object pose is valid. Yes. Now we're going to add a couple more bools to this, because unlike the last one you can put moons all over the place. That would work here too, but the problem would be that the joystick would control all of the balls simultaneously, and this would get a little crazy. So we're just going to deal with one ball. So we're going to create a bool that looks to see whether you've placed an object and then stops doing things when you've placed an object. So private, not pirate, private bool object placed.
Equals.
You collapsed what?
Their script collapsed into 3 dots. No idea. It did that.
Just go back into, just relaunch it from Unity. Private bool object place, private bool ground placed. Okay. And, okay, so we got a void awake. That's the same. Void up to placement pose. Yes, same. Placement initial, yes. Get touch, that's all the same. Touch phase equals touch began. That's the same. Ooh. That doesn't look right. Is this what you guys have? Ray, camera, screen hat, ray, hit, collider, game object?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Oh, we're not using this anymore. We can strip this out. That's what I did. Okay. So, we just need, so we want update pose. We want update placement indicator. We're going to keep the if touch phase equals touch phase dot began. And then we don't need this ray information because we're not going to do any physics ray casting. We're only going to AR raycast manage raycast. So we can just say if placement post is valid, place object. So actually here, do this. Grab just this, copy this from if placement pose is valid down to the ending bracket for that if statement. Copy it. Then take the entire contents of this if touch phase began, get rid of it, and paste it. So it should say if touch phase equals touch phase dot began, if placement post is valid, place object. Okay? Then we're also going to go ahead and say object placed equals true. Because we're going to say now you've placed an object. Okay? You guys with me? All that ray physics ray casting, the ray stuff.
Right, I know that, but the private vector 3 camera bearing methods.
That leave that alone for now. That should be down in.
Not, mine is in a different place.
Yours should be, that should be under update placement pose. Right? Isn't your camera, isn't that under update placement pose?
It wanted me to add that up top.
You have a private void update placement pose up at the top?
I have a private vector 3 camera bearing. It wanted me to do that because it wouldn't recognize camera bearing without vector 6.
Okay. Well, just leave it then.
Okay.
If it worked, leave it.
Yeah.
Yeah, mine is defined here, and it shouldn't. It was defined. It was because you forgot to put var, maybe. I don't know. Up here. Wait, what place object? Oh, that should have been done. You should have had that in your script from before.
Well, I think I just had different versions saved and I opened like an older version before I did the homework.
Okay. Well, if you had it what we had done from the homework, then you should have a private void place object, and it basically says instantiate object to placement pose dot rotation. Okay. It should be in your Apollo demo or whatever you saved your homework under. What? How do you open it? You should import it into your project first, and then open it into your new project.
So where's the?
Okay, what do you have?
I have called something type something, but its spelling is a little bit different. I don't know. Probably I opened the wrong script. So where is that script?
The script was called AR tap controller.
Yeah, I think so.
So, do you know where you oh, you have the
I have 3 AR type controller.
Okay, it should be your most recent one. We're running out of time. We have 5 minutes. No, we have 15 minutes. All right, and this is the last thing. So let me just continue on from here. You guys can try to copy the script. You know, if you have to write it from scratch, then you have to write it from scratch. Okay, so let me see. Where were we? Object place is true. Yep. Okay, so then update placement pose. We have the var screen center. That is the same. If placement pose is valid, yeah, that's the same. That's the same. That's the same. Okay, so then the only thing here is before we do this update placement pose, we're going to check if object is placed or if object is not placed. So add a line here and say if not object placed. Okay, now you can grab all of this stuff.
Can we just say if object place return?
You can.
I'm gonna do that
You
instead.
do that. I'll do it this way. So make sure you're grabbing this all the way down to the end of this if statement. Go ahead and cut it and put it inside of these. There we go. Okay. So if not object place, then do that. And okay. Just getting rid of some extra spaces. All right, so we got that. Then that's the same. And then, oh, we need an else now. Else. Else placement pose is valid equals false. So basically, once the object is placed, we're going to set the placement pose to be invalid. So it won't, the placement indicator won't show up and it won't place any more objects once you've placed one. Okay? Because the way we placed objects, we're down here, we're saying, you know, and this update placement indicator, we're saying if the placement pose is valid, then do this. Otherwise, don't do it. We're setting that once an object is placed, we're saying placement poster is no longer valid. So it won't do this, and it won't place objects. Okay? Update placement indicator, I think that stays the same. Yep, that stays the same. And then place object. Okay, there's only one thing we need to do on place object. And actually, I already said object place equals true, so I don't need to do that. But what I do need to do is first I want to place a ground object if there hasn't been a ground object placed. So actually here, before we do that, let's create the private void for place ground object. Private void place ground. Okay, and in this we're going to put in the same instantiate stuff. Just copy this line and paste it up here. And instead of saying object to place, we're going to use that public bool or public game object called ground object. What? Yeah, we should have had it up here. Right here, public game object, ground object. Okay, so that's the function that, oh, and then underneath that, we're going to put ground placed equals true. So we're going to set that bool as true once it's actually been placed. And then on this place object function or method, we're going to first, before we instantiate the object, we're going to ask if not ground placed, then place, whoops, place ground. Okay? So that should do it. Placed ground is a void method that we just did right here. Right above it we had a private void place ground.
Oh.
Maybe you forgot open close parentheses. Maybe you forgot a semicolon. I believe that's it.
Yeah, can you just go down a little bit?
What do you need to see?
The private void update placement phase. Which is further up. Yeah,
Okay. So now, save this. I'll come back. It's 3:41. I got to get the rest of this in here, and then I can come back. Go back into Unity and add your AR place object script to your. Oh, we never added that. We need to add a few things into our scene. We need to add our. So right-click on your hierarchy and go down to XR, and we need an AR session and an AR session origin, right? That AR session origin comes with an AR camera, so we can dump our main camera, delete it, and let me put this up at the top. All right, yeah. And our AR session above that. And set the AR camera to main camera. I don't think it really matters for this session, but it's just a good habit to get into because eventually you're going to want to reference your main camera and not have to point to a specific thing. Okay, now on your AR session origin, we're gonna put our AR place object script that we just created. And yeah, and that should have had in it, it should have had this require component type of AR Raycast Manager and require component type of AR Plane Manager in it. So when you put that in there, it should have added a Plane Manager and a Raycast Manager. On the Plane Manager, make sure we're detecting just click on nothing first and then click on horizontal so that it's just selecting horizontal surfaces. Okay. Now you see we have our three things here. We have placement indicator, object to place, and ground object. Shoot, we're running out of time, and we didn't build our placement indicator. Well, first of all, let's add our ground object and our thing. What we want to do actually is not have the ground or the ball in the scene when we start. So we're going to put these into prefabs. So grab the ground object and drag it into prefabs. Grab the ball object and put it into prefabs, and they turn blue. And once you've done that, you can delete them from your scene. That script will still be attached to it, the ball.
Sorry, what should we be adding this object
to your AR session origin. Now go ahead and grab the ball from your prefabs and drag it into object to place. Ground object, ground from your prefabs and drag that into ground object. And now we just need a placement indicator. Go to script, go to textures, and if you go to the class website, I stashed one there. AR programming. Go to week 3. And there's just a little thing right here. And if you right-click on that and say Save Image As, and it should be formatted as a PNG, and just name it Reticle or Placement Indicator. Okay, I'm going to show this in Finder. And I'm going to drag this from my Finder into my texture window. So now you have this reticle in there. Now in reticle, click on reticle and click on alpha is transparency and apply. Remember, we did the same thing for the moon indicator. And now we need to create a material for this. So right click and create new material. And go ahead and call this placement indicator. Okay, and now change the shader on placement indicator from standard to unlit, and that opens up a new thing, and choose transparent. Okay, and then you'll see over here this base texture where it says none texture. Hit select, and that brings up select texture. And you should be able to find your reticle, or whatever you called it, placement indicator or something. You click on that, and then it wraps it around a sphere, but we don't care. And now we just need to create a, back in the hierarchy, we need to create a 3D object quad. Oh my God. Oh my quad. What do? We rotate this one 90 degrees around the x-axis. Oh, that's it, scale-wise. Make it the same scale as the sphere, so 0.2 by 0.2 by 0.2 by 1. You can make the z 1, okay? And now we need to rotate this around the x-axis 90 degrees. Okay. Okay. And make sure that the quad is placed at position 0, 0, 0. And we need to do the same sort of thing where we have a parent and a child object. So create a new empty object and call this placement indicator, and set the quad as a child of that, and then drag your placement indicator material onto your quad, and it should come up with the placement indicator like that. And now highlighting, whoops, go back to your AR session, and you just have the placement indicator field unpopulated, and drag your placement indicator onto that field. And now you should have all 3 fields populated, and you should be ready to build. So we have 2 minutes. Is that long enough for me to build? Let me build my thing. Build settings, iOS, switch platform.
So we're going to try to place this on
Into your script, you test
but it builds. Does it?
Yes,
that
a minute. I
means-
have to get this done. If you have a couple minutes after class, I'll let you look at it. Build. I'm going to make a new folder called builds. And I'm going to call this iOS. And what camera usage described in the what? What did I do wrong?
Other than
This didn't work for me either. There's something I need to set up right. It's probably in the player settings. Okay, hold on. Unity. Where's player settings? Oh, build settings. Player settings. And I need to go back to my notes from for the week 1. All right, so your homework is to get this working and also to find some examples of AR applications that you're interested in and post those on your blog. If you can find something that's specifically written in AR Foundation, that's great. But any kind of AR application is fine to look at. I just want to look at next week some examples of different AR stuff so that we can get some ideas of kind of what we want to do. But I will continue recording until I get this working so that you guys can check the video and get this working if you have to leave right now. Okay?
Could you upload the Joystick files onto the website?
Yeah, I will. Yeah,
Once you get it working?
Sure.
I feel like that's where a lot of bugs are happening.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see here. Unity layout seems yeah. And then hierarchy. Yep. All right. So development setup for iOS settings. I need to have edit project settings player. All right, hold on. Project settings player. Yeah, we got that. And then choose a company. I'm going to do mine as CAAR Prague. You should not do the same one as me. AR Rollerball, that's fine. Okay. Company name. I'm going to call this CAAR Prague. Bundle identifier. Okay. Yep. See you later. All right. So CAAR Prague dot test dot demo. Actually, let's call this roll dot demo. Okay. And yeah, of course, because the camera isn't set up anymore. It's set up for AR. Yeah. No. So then I need to have, let's see, minimum iOS version set to 9. Where's that? Minimum target. Minimum. That's right. Okay. Yeah. Target. Device SDK. That's the same. Architecture ARM64. That's probably what did it. And that should do it. All right, let me try building it now. Oh, what now? Unity build methods, build player, users build. Son of a gun. All right, let me try again. Let me see what these are. Build, save. All right, so it says build exception requires a camera usage description. Player settings, iOS, camera usage description. Build. Okay, so once I get that, those other ones seem to be a result of that problem. So it said go to player settings, Unity. Where's player settings? Edit.
It's right with the build settings. You see that?
Where? What? Project settings? Player. Okay. Now it says I need to requires a camera usage. Okay.
I guess retract requires AR kit support.
Maybe that's it. Okay.
And make it to 11 emotion.
Oh, change this to 11. Requires camera usage description, camera usage description. Other settings, other settings. Other settings, where's other settings? I don't see other settings. XR settings. I'm in other settings, okay. Light map, camera. Camera usage description. There's nothing in there. All right, whatever. I think. Oh, maybe that popped up as soon as I clicked on requires AR kit. Okay, let's try that. Build. Save. It's doing something this time. All right, I think that did it.
Does require AR things in there?
Yeah, require AR kit support.
You know which one is under it?
It's under player. Under other settings. This is so much easier on Android. You just have to basically just say build and run. No, I'm still building. As soon as I'm done building, I'll go back to my code.
You sound like a Minecraft. Mom, I'm building.
No, I can't. Not while it's building. It'll crash the build. I have to wait.
I'll build too. I think I got everything.
Yeah, you have to switch platforms to iOS. Okay, so now I got my iOS. I'm going to launch my Xcode project. And I need to unlock my iPad, have it plugged in. And select my device, close stupid iTunes. Processing files. Come on, go. All right, I select my iPad. I click on the top level. I make sure that my signing is correct, which I've updated my things, and so now it's got its own tab on mine. If you still have the old Xcode, then it'll be right on that first page. All right, and I should be able to build it. Does anybody else have classes at 4 o'clock? No? Good. Sorry I'm holding you guys a couple of minutes extra. Yeah, I got nothing going on for the rest of the day. Yours is working? Yes. She wins. She beat me because she remembered the build settings and I didn't. And I had to go back into my week 1 notes to be able to do it. All right, come on, 175. So, oh, by the way, I updated my iPad OS to the new iPad OS version 13. Some really cool stuff that comes with it, like dark mode and a better Siri and some other things, and also ARKit 3.0. But then be warned, when you do that, you do have to also update your Xcode to the latest Xcode. And why is it making me put this in? I hope that's the right. There we go. Okay. Where's my, there it is, rollerball, play. It's playing. And is it working? Let's find out. Allow access to camera. All right. Now, if I go to this and I say new movie recording, so you guys can see. Oh, that's not it. Hold on. New movie recording. Can change the device to, what the heck? What is this? I don't even know what these are.
Oh, those are Apple TVs.
Well, crap. Maybe because I updated, something's changed now. Oh well. Let me just see if this is working. There's very low light in here, so. Hey, it works. And pound. Yes. All right. Mine is working. All right, cool. I want to add this to the recording though, so you guys can see it working on the screen. Cancel. File. New movie recording. This should. It's because it's dark in here. It will detect planes a lot better. If, where the heck is my...
Was the play thing just for the placement indicator?
Oh well, I wonder if it's because I updated my iPad and that's why I can't use this.
Are in the same OS? Like you have the latest new computer, right?
Well, this used to work where I could go into movie record and it would show the screen of the iPad. But anyway, let's see if I can do it here on the camera. But I got to be able to see the floor. Oh my God, this is like playing through a mirror. And the floor, someone turn on the light.
It's in the bathroom. No, by the way, yeah.
The light switch, there we go. Oh, I need to relaunch it. Because I already launched my ball. Oh, actually, yeah. Well, I guess I could drive my ball over here. There. Okay, you can see it on the screen there. So I have a ball, and hitting the jump button makes it jump. So it's working. Yay. I need to figure out why I can't screen capture my iPad. I'm guessing it's because I updated my iPad, and there's probably some setting that I need to change.
So once the ball is like placed, like I placed
That's
it
it.
on the table,
Yeah.
so that doesn't have like plane protection, so it can just roll around anyway. because we have
It
the
put
ground.
a 100-meter wide thing on the table level. So yeah. Yeah. Okay, so that works. Great. End of the class.